So I thought that it would be fun to bring you here to Relational Spaces to just talk a little bit about the Marmosas that we've just been on, and maybe also just getting some of your words on what is circling, what is the circling paradigm.
Cool.
Yeah. And maybe just starting off from, like, we've just spent 4 or 5 days in Malmö with a group of 19 people. What are you sitting with now after that?
Yeah, I'm feeling super sensitive in a way and super alive. It's like noticing, very present with you and with all the subtleties that are happening inside of me. Feels like kind of cleaned from the inside out, something like that, which feels really nice. It also, being sensitive doesn't, there are costs to that, or maybe things I don't want to feel, but right now it feels, really nice. And my heart is touched from how we ended yesterday. It felt like quite special.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that because you run a lot of SAS trainings by now.
Yeah.
Just what is it like to go into these quite deep, like 6-month processes with people again and again? What is that like for you?
It's super exciting, and it's amazing. Yeah, it's challenging and it takes a lot from me in a way, or there's a lot of work in it, but there's nothing I'd rather be doing. I don't think. Depends when you ask me. Some of the moments from this weekend were a bit stressful, or I was like questioning things at times, and like, oh God, does it have to be this difficult, or is this harder than it needs to be? But then when things complete like they did yesterday, and then it feels like grace and kind of sense of oneness between us. And also, then I just feel like, it was all worth it. And also I could then start to see, like having been very deep with people in these 4 days, I could start to sense like, now I can sense the journey of the 6 months of like, everyone's been deeply met and touched and challenged and excited and opened, and I could start to see how everyone's going to have their own unique journey through this, and they're going to be interplaying with each other all the way through, but that it feels like some really deep transformation can happen for people. And that's where I feel like there's nothing more meaningful for me than doing transformational work with people, where some things like fundamentally change in who they are and how they orient to life. And I could see that's that alchemical process that does require some heat, had begun, and in a way it felt like it started to be set in motion. I'm curious how's that to hear?
Yeah, I'm just sensing into that. It's like it feels like something is starting to spin somehow when you talk about it. Like something has been set in motion and now it's sort of doing its own thing.
Yeah.
And this creature will move on its own for some months now, and
like spiraling, kind of constellating thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it was really nice at this SAS training to have the sense of walking in the door and being in the space, and then like, the field is here. Like the sense that there's something known or something safe in the field of the training.
Right.
That feels just soft and big, and I can lean on that somehow.
Nice. That's really nice to hear. I love the thought of people experiencing that, and my hope is a lot of people experience that. There is a tried and tested container that's done the years of experimenting and working and shifting and changing and growing, and so I'm glad that you felt that.
Can you say something, just for people that are not that acquainted with circling, about like I would like you to say something about the practice of circling, and then how the SAS training relates to the practice of circling.
Yeah, circling in its most simple form is about becoming more present in our connections with each other, and through noticing and finding space for more of what's alive in us and between us, transformation can happen, insights can happen, beautiful connection can happen. It's like all kinds of creative things can emerge from that, and that's what circling is. It's a practice of becoming more intimate with ourselves as we relate, and about being more skillful in how we relate, being able to meet people and see people much more deeply than we typically do, and learning to be more authentic, more loving, more open to connection. And then the SAS is it's for people who want to just dive deep into that paradigm. So when people come and do circling, they often taste like, there's something a bit different about this modality. It's a bit more organic than other things I've done, or it's like, wow, this goes super deep, super quickly, and I only met that guy 5 minutes ago and we're already like sharing our life stories, or like feel like some kind of bond that's going to stay for, that's deeply meaningful. So the SAS is for people who just are touched by the practice and they want to dive in for 6 months with other people who are committed on that journey together. And it's for people who want to learn to lead the practice and kind of steward this practice in the world. So in that way, it's a deep dive, and it's a leadership training, and every second of the 6 months is kind of designed to develop someone's leadership in circling, which also is about, I think of leadership as being about inspiration, and it's about being there for others and present for others and attuned to others and supportive of others. So that context goes out to anything and everything, basically. So it is a leadership training, but leadership in the widest sense of the word. And for people who want to integrate more of the magic of circling into their life, we also believe that the more you are able to lead it, the more you will have of that in your life. So it's a big part of it. So it's kind of like there's a bit of the spiraling thing there. It's kind of coming from multiple directions, but it's more of this is a circling leadership training. So you're going to get challenged in your leadership and invited and supported to deeply grow as a person through doing a lot of circling and getting a taste of sharing this practice with others and how to do that better.
I notice there's something in me that wants to be able to, like, through the lens, communicate what it's like to be on this training. And it seems to be quite hard to communicate. It's quite hard to say what actually happens. Because it's so much in the moment, so in the particular connection that the magic happens.
Yeah, I think there's something about like the invitation to self-leadership from the beginning, where it's like you're never just there as a passive receiver of knowledge. It's like, yeah, maybe as the leader we're sharing something, but the main thing we're sharing is like, what's alive for you, what's here now, what are you wanting, what's in the space. As we become more connected and present, like, what happens to us, where do we go? So in that way it's more, it can become more co-creative. But paradoxically at the same time there is a curriculum of sense, or there's a form that you're practicing. So it's some kind of dance between structure and flow. And where a lot of the flow of the course is like, you realize that how you show up in every moment like links to the flow that we experience together in the course. That's the bit that I think's more different to other trainings. I mean, does that fit for you from when you did it? Or?
When I think of my first SAS experience, like 5-6 years ago or so, I think I'm mostly remembering the immense frustration of not being able to bring myself, and not feeling that what I had was what should be in the space, and that I was somehow wrong, or that others were wrong in what they were bringing. And that was a really big journey for me, this moving into allowing the stuff that was actually going on in me to be seen and be in the space from there. And that had some profound impacts on both my experience of being in that space, but also my life in general. Like something with I guess presence is the word for it. That being there requires me to show what's there in me.
And was there a mirroring quality for you? Like, it feels like you were mirrored or confronted to realize who you were on a deeper level, and then be like, wow, if I want to be present, or like, I need to show up more.
Yeah, I think for me, like, the question I sat with on the last day of this is like, it was this like, wow, am I really allowed to be like this? Like, wow, I'm free. And I am allowed to be free, it seems. And then there was like, or am I really? And which is still in me. It's like, it feels like this practice and others have like opened for more and more freedom in my life. And then I seem to keep landing in this question, like, well, am I really allowed to be like this? Is it really okay? And I also find that I see that in a lot of my participants coming to my events, that there is this, am I free? Like that question seems to be very, very core, and seems to be opened a lot in the circling space for me.
Yeah, and the kind of unlearning that can happen of like, oh, I thought this, but oh shit, wow, and where I thought that was like a no-go, it's actually like, it's a win-win to go there. And like, oh, it makes total sense. And, oh, that's a shame that that's been shut down. Quite literally a shame, often. Like, there's just been shame that's been... Yeah. It really... getting, for me, it's a privilege to like get to see people in ways that maybe they've never been seen, or like to share in their journey of like realization from things from like 30 years ago that have like constructed their world. Their whole world has been within this, and suddenly they're like, there's more, which is both absolutely exhilarating and life affirming and like the best thing ever, but also kind of shattering of what their reality was. It's a bit like the bird that comes out of the cage and then misses the cage at moments, but at the same time just loves that freedom, and we don't know what the end to that is. In a way, it's like there's a mystery at the heart of this work, and it's, for me, there's one sense I'm just following this flow, like, and see where it goes. And it picked me up at one point along the way, and now I'm sharing it more with others, and there seems to be a lot of liberation possible for people, and a lot of connection that wasn't on the radar before, and joy and depth.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a conversation I had with one of the participants now at the SAS on the last day, where he was like, he was a bit scared, or like sort of in this state of it feels like it's too much and I don't have any solid ground under my feet anymore. Like I can't find it, and this practice seems to mess with that. And I had this just moment of clarity where I was like, yeah, I think that's the wrong metaphor. It's like you're not on land, you're in water, and you're learning how to swim. Like there's a flow to this that it's not solid. It's moving, and you need to start being in another way to notice that things are moving and to notice the flow of things.
Yeah, like there's a spirit to it that's yeah, I like to think that we can ground that spirit as well. But there's a flow to be a part of and to integrate that can be a lot, yeah. That flow feels kind of present here for me. Like feeling a flow that's between us, or like feeling a connection with you that's kind of beyond me. Feels nice. I wonder if you feel something like that.
Yeah, what I notice is that there's part of me that just wants to like let go and just drop into something that feels really nice in the connection just now. It's like an expansion of sorts. It's just, that's nice. And also, part of that is like the sense of, oh, we've been on a journey together, and now we're here. There's this whole memory lane of like, oh, so much stuff has happened. And like, well, now this is like the current endpoint of that, and there's also adventure on the other side of that.
And then still this thing here that's kind of mysterious as well. Do you feel that?
That there's a mystery present right here? Yeah, it's like... Yeah, it has this mixed sensation of some anxiety of not knowing what is happening, and expansion of, like, I seem to be with a bigger field of sensation than I was just 10 minutes ago. I don't know if it connects directly, but there's something I would like to chat about, just like on the... We talked about like what we're learning from circling on like this in me level, like what am I discovering in myself. Something that really opened up for me on this SAS in Malmö was one of the participants talked about awe and wonder, and that's something I've been with quite a lot lately. This sense of like, wow, there's where another person of the world just opens and it feels almost religious to like, wow, there you are. There's a soul or just there's so much beauty. I find that for me is becoming a more and more important aspect of the practice, or something I really treasure.
Yeah, I had that experience this weekend of leading the birthday circle, that form that we're practicing, that I've kind of taught or shared hundreds of times, and I led one, but there's no going through the motions. It's just like, I could feel like my maps of like therapeutic maps or psychological maps of, and then like, oh, it's not about that. Like they can steer me to what's here, but there's this human who's here right now with this particular experience of, he was feeling some anger, and I could kind of therapize that a bit, but no, it's here. And suddenly like all my maps fade away, and it's like, it's infinite. Or it's like, wait, it's so big it's like confronting in a beautiful way, like the awe of it, and then like, oh, this is obviously how it always is, but maybe I don't experience life that way normally. So it's like getting this experience of greater truth, but then like, how the hell do I integrate that? Or that's not how I'm normally seeing people, but that's kind of like what's going on the whole time. Yeah, it's this sense of the floodplains opening or something to the infinite, of like, and then what? now what? But being touched by like, yeah, this brings us closer as humans. This like, our unique humanness can be felt more deeply, but also this sense of unification. Like I think that's what I feel with you now. There's this like shared presence that feels peaceful, and I keep wanting to check if you have the same.
Yeah, it feels does feel peaceful. Like, it feels hard to put my finger on my experience of this moment with you. There is like a there's a sense of very little difference somehow.
Exactly.
Like, more like there's one field that we are both expressing from, something like that. Makes me wonder if it looks weird on video. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, like, now you've been in Copenhagen for SS last year and now in Malmö. It's been a few years since you've been in Scandinavia for circling trainings. I wonder how this community or these communities feel for you.
They feel amazing, yeah. In Copenhagen, that was such a cool SAS last year. I felt like there's a serious kind of collective spirit happening, like there's a bunch of different individuals who are gathered around this practice, but more than that, like they're gathered around some co-creative potential that involves depths and connection and creativity and authenticity. I love coming here and dipping into that and being a part of that. It feels exciting. And I know there's challenges of organising things as a collective in different ways, but there's something that I think is just good in of itself. Like, it seems like a lot of fun, and my hope is, in my imagination, is that people could come into relational spaces with you guys and bring their own things in and have a rich experience. Yeah. And in Malmo it felt like, oh, there's a different group of people have kind of gathered to do circling here, and they're super passionate about it and they're getting a lot from it, and I was right next to Copenhagen. Like, these can cross-pollinate basically, and they both felt strong, like there's something being birthed here potentially. Like, yeah, love to come and add to that and support.